So, welcome everyone. To our training, we're going to be talking a little bit about the what's and whys of recycling, composting, reuse, and how we're going to be educating about those things at the festival, along with helping in real time to reduce waste. We're going to start, though, with a short video. Great. In the meantime, I'm just going to review our policy for Vegan SoulFest regarding sustainability. Vegan SoulFest is a green, zero waste, and sustainable festival. Zero waste is our aspiration. It is not yet our reality. Part of the reason we call this team the less waste team is to be clear on that distinction between where we hope to be and where we are now. Every year we move closer to the goal of zero waste, and every year we try to have less waste than the year before as we move towards that target of zero waste. We're going back to the policy. We're making every effort to minimize our impact on the environment, and are looking for vendors who will partner with us to achieve this goal. We will include composting of food scraps in various areas of the festival. All vendors will be required to participate. Vendors will be required to adhere to the following green regulations. Each booth will be monitored for compliance. No plastic bags are allowed. Styrofoam of any kind is prohibited. And serving containers, paper napkins, and utensils must be eco-friendly and biodegradable. And so we're also requiring our vendors to sort their trash, to sort for the 4 streams of materials that we'll be collecting. In reality, not every vendor, unfortunately, is going to be using the materials that we would hope they would use. Next year, I think we'll have a more sort of aggressive enforcement policy in that regard. But this year, we're just really encouraging and educating the vendors to use the compostable and recyclable materials to the greatest degree possible, and hoping that they will adhere to that and help us make the festival as sustainable as we can.
Hi, nice to meet everyone. Nice to see everyone. Nice to see so many people come through for Vegan SoulFest. So when you're coming into the event, if you're coming by car, there are going to be several different opportunities to park. The first come, first serve parking is the closest parking. So that parking, we've got so many vendors, so many sponsors coming in that we have to reserve whatever is left for first come, first serve for all of our volunteers. So that's the parking that's directly in front of the park. So if there's a space, take it. Otherwise, there is a parking opportunity at the back of the area. There are about 2 large buildings, and then there's a very large lot in the back. It is a little bit of a walk, but it's not a trek, right? So that's an opportunity for you to park there. Otherwise, we do have a shuttle across the bridge, and that shuttle is going to be taking you to a parking lot that is over by the hospital that's over there. And there's a large parking lot there as well. So it'll bring you right to the front of the festival. Now, where you'll be entering that is going to be over at the VIP section, because as volunteers, you are definitely quite important. But also that VIP section is not going to be as hectic for you to get in as the general admission. So when you get there, there is a volunteer table where you will come in, you will get your food voucher, and you will also get your t-shirt for volunteering as well. I'm trying to make sure that I hit all the points that you need. In terms of anything else other than that, we have several different volunteer stations for us at the festival. So you'll see our vendor relations, our vendor compliance, and our vendor compliance folks. You're going to be working almost in tandem with them, because they're going to be making sure that when the vendors are passing off anything that's coming towards you, any of the waste that they have, they're going to be sorting it as best they can before it comes to you. So trying to make any efforts that you have to use, trying to make that much less difficult for you. Anything else you need me to add, Adam? Any questions from anyone?
I'm going to stop the screen share for a moment just to see if anyone has any questions. If you want to raise hands, use the little digital hand, or if that doesn't work, you can use a physical hand. Does anyone have any questions? Go ahead, Karen. Any other questions for Lori Kim? Just raise your hands.
For the entrance, is the VIP section where we're supposed to check in, will that be clearly marked?
Yes, it absolutely will be. So there are two, actually, let me see if I can pull up a map for us, right? So I'll show you where VIP will be. I'm going to try and zoom in and not make folks dizzy, because this is the big parking lot, first of all, right? And so if you're coming in here, then the VIP entrance is going to be right here. So this is the main way to get into the park here. If you're walking, it comes here, right? And so VIP will be right here. There'll be booths set up along this left and right hand side. And so you'll see your volunteer booth right in that area. This is general admission over here. Okay. So that's the area that you don't want to go in, because then you're gonna have to walk all the way. You cannot come in this way. I mean, you can, but you're not gonna be happy about it, because this is where the water is flowing through the watershed. So it's very soft here and muddy. Okay. So this is gonna be your entrance. And then across this bridge here is where the parking is. So the shuttle is going to take you, and then it's going to take you over into the parking areas over here. So that is your opportunity to park there. And then I'm going to try and maybe zoom out a little, see if the other parking, okay. There is this lot that's back here. So you see that there's this large building, so another building over here, and then there's a lot that's over here as well. So it looks a little different now, right? This is an older image, but you do have those opportunities. Anything you want me to point out, folks, before I stop sharing?
Yes.
Hanover Street. And the Hanover Street Bridge, is that what that is?
Yes, this one.
And where is the old city?
So, and just full disclosure, I'm not from here, so I've just, this is my my third, fourth day here, so I think this is that bridge. Is that correct, Adam?
Hello?
Yeah, that's the
That
Hanover
is correct,
Street
by the way.
Bridge, and then on the other side of the bridge is I think it's Harbor Hospital, or whatever the name of the hospital is.
Yes.
Okay.
There's a park at the hospital. On the other
Yeah,
side.
yes. If there's a shuttle that'll take you across the bridge, and the hospital has agreed for us to have folks park there as well.
Okay.
Okay, or the back lot. It's just a little bit of a walk, so you're going to. Sorry. Yeah, so you're going to have those two main opportunities to park. But like I said, first come, first serve for the other parking. Any other questions?
Yes. What about,
Well, I live
what
in
ab-
Arlington, and
Be signs on near the hospital that say parking here.
I'm sorry, say it again.
Will there be signs around the hospital that say park here
Yeah. Yes, there will be.
for volunteers? Okay.
Mm-hmm. It's not gonna say volunteer parking, it's gonna say parking. That's why I'm telling you where your parking is. So the the general public is not gonna know that they can park in the main lot, but the security that is keeping the general public from the main lot is gonna know that volunteers are coming in. Yeah, good question, Susan. How long would you recommend getting there before our time? Quite honestly, there's 12,000 people coming, you kind of want to plan accordingly. It's not going to be like, I'm coming from New York State. So New York State Fair, massive. You always, if you want to park, it's like an hour, that you want to get there before you actually want to go into the park. This one, I wouldn't say an hour necessarily, but it could help you, because especially if you're going to be walking, you don't want to be rushing, you don't want to be tired. It's a good question. I would say maybe half hour. It really depends. But I really do think that you really want to just be judicious with how you move in the world, right? Like personally, these days I have to move really slow, so I try my very best to give myself some grace around that. I know that was like a vague answer, but I hope it helped.
Right now, we're going to talk a little bit more about what we're doing and why it matters with a little short video.
Hi, I'm Steph with Energy Justice Network and locally for the Clean Air Baltimore Coalition. And we're working to end the burning of our trash and replace it with zero waste. So at Vegan SoulFest, we're committed to reducing waste that is sent to burn at the trash incinerator here in Baltimore City. And at the event, we get to showcase the alternative sustainable lifestyle of veganism combined with zero waste. So thank you all for playing your part in visioning the world we wish to live in and minimizing harm done to the local community, people, animals, and planet. In this presentation, we will define zero waste and go over how to properly sort recycling, trash, compost during the event. At the Less Waste stations, we'll be guiding participants on how to sort, and festival staff and volunteers are supporting vendors on their zero waste journey as well. And we're all learning here together, myself included. So today you'll come away with an understanding of why zero waste is so important and how you can start to implement these practices in your personal life beyond the festival. So Vegan SoulFest is starting the journey towards zero waste, and with our education and engagement efforts of participants and vendors, we'll transform the festival to a truly zero waste event. So what is zero waste? And there's only one definition according to the Zero Waste International Alliance. I'll let you read it, but I definitely want to highlight the responsible production and consumption. And that means we all have a part to play, both consumers and producers. So the only way to get to zero waste is to eliminate the use of single-use items, not just single-use plastic, but compostable items too, since all single-use items consume resources upstream and have an environmental impact all along the way. In the US, we're only 20% of the world's population, and we're using the most water and producing the most trash. So we envision a festival where all food and beverage items are served in reusable ware. This image depicts how reuse is of the highest impact and best use of resources. Reuse also saves businesses money. Buy a cup or a plate once, wash it and use it over and over again. It's less resource intensive than all the resources it took to create the single-use item in the first place, that then ends up being burned and buried through local waste management. Zero waste is shifting the labor of managing waste to responsibly managing resources for reuse. Vegan SoulFest participants are encouraged to BYO. Bring your own food and beverage containers. As long as they are clean, vendors will accept them. A BYO Essentials bag looks like this: a bag to hold all your BYO essentials and to store items purchased from vendors. A cup, a plate, utensils, a cloth napkin, or a bandana. Remember, you don't have to buy anything to BYO. Use what you already have, put it in a bag, and bring it with you. Keep in mind, vendors' serving sizes will vary and may not match BYO items' sizes. So here is what is considered recycling in Baltimore City. And as you can see what the multicolored arrows are pointing to, carry-out containers are not recyclable. So if food packaging is not reusable or compostable, then it's going to burn at the incinerator and continue causing harm to the neighboring Black community. And the only reason a compostable item is accepted at our event is because we actually have a composting service. If you're attending an event or ordering takeout food that comes in compostable packaging that doesn't have a compost service, then you know it's not going to be composted, because these bioplastics are not composted outside of large facilities and cannot be composted in someone's backyard. So this is why reuse is the solution and is the highest impact and best use. According to our compost service provider, this is what accepted as compost. So some volunteers will help attendees recycle and compost at the sorting stations, and some will provide support to the vendors so they understand how to support their trash at the end of the night before delivering it to a waste station. Compost bags are green, and we will separate all food scraps and other compostable items. The only plastic-like compostables are the ones that are BPI certified and usually have a label saying so. Due to the amount of vendors and different compostable options, it can be challenging to decipher what is and isn't a compostable item. This is why we are providing vendors with a link to BPI certified products, and in future years, we're working to mandate only a few options to make our jobs at the sorting stations easier, with the ultimate goal of getting to reuse. Reuse is a goal of the festival to get to zero waste. Here are some of the highlights and benefits of switching to a reusable item instead of a recyclable or compostable, because of the reasons just mentioned. 100% of businesses that shift from single use to reuse for on-site dining save money. Even though the assumption is that there are higher costs for labor to wash the reusable dishes, but studies show that there's still a cost savings, since reuse will reduce their waste disposal costs too. When evaluating the life cycle of reusable items that have the potential to be used hundreds to thousands of times, the cost savings is exponential. Here is a picture of what the sorting stations looked like last year. So this is an example of what it could look like again this year. This is where we will engage with participants and help them sorting, recycling, compost, trash into the proper can. So reminding participants that we're all learning together is a great way to greet people when they come to the station. You will be provided with a guide on how to separate waste items, as seen on the following slides. You'll also be provided with gloves and trash pickers in case you'll need them. So we are also providing this same guideline to the vendors and to the volunteers on how to separate recycling properly. So we'll have 2 bags to handle recycling. Blue is for all accepted recyclable items, and then clear is for all plastic films. Here's the guide on how to separate compost and trash. Green bags for all food scraps and BPI compostable items, and black for all items deemed as trash. For access to the Reuse Saves Money fact sheet, here's a clickable link. However, if you want to ask for a copy in an email, we can email it to you. And there's also a BPI certified compostables link where you can see what compostable food and beverage packaging items look like. So thanks for watching. My email is steph@leavenowaste.com.
Okay, so we're going to go through the 4 kinds of waste that we're going to be collecting at the festival. And we're going to be assigning a different bag to each kind of waste so that for the purposes of our knowing what goes where. Just one note, recycling should not end up in bags. When we recycle anything going the city is collecting, we want to make sure we use the bag to transport the stuff. But in the end, bags cannot go into the recycling system. It can actually cause problems for them. But we'll talk about that a little more in a moment. But our 4 types of materials are municipal collected compostables, plastic bags and films, compostable items, and anything else, which is the stuff that unfortunately is going to be in safe. And that's what we want. So we want the black bag, as little to be collected in the black bags as possible by getting as much as possible into everything else. So this is one of our waste stations. We'll come back to that in a moment, but you can see here the 4 different types of materials that we'll be collecting at the station. And each one will be clearly labeled and so that we can guide the participants through knowing what goes where. Okay, so we'll start with our recyclables, and Kalia from the DPW is going to tell us a little bit more about what is and is not recyclable. And I think some of this information may already be out of date. Kalia is going to give us the full update. So let me unmute let me quickly unmute. Kalia, are you
Yep, I'm here.
Okay, great.
Hello, everyone. So my name is Kalia Jordan. I am a liaison officer with the Bureau of Solid Waste within the Department of Public Works. So the guide that we have here is, for the most part, our most up-to-date guide. We are updating it with more information. But for your normal things that you would recycle, paper, cartons, cans, plastics, jars, tubs, and jugs, as well as glass bottles are all fine. It gets a little difficult sometimes when it comes to plastic containers. So we don't like to encourage people to use the resin codes, which are the floating triangle with the number in the middle. We tend to tell people not to necessarily look at those numbers when trying to find out if something is recyclable. We tend to tell you to look at the shape of the bottle or the jug. And so we are now accepting all plastic bottles, jars, and jugs. That does include the wide mouth containers as well. So like those quart containers, the peanut butter containers, sour cream and yogurt, we are taking all of those now.
Okay, great.
So all of those can be taken. We just want them to be as clean as possible. And just make sure that they're dry. You can leave the tops on those items. So like any plastic bottle, you can leave the top on. If it screws on and it can screw back on easily of a plastic bottle, you can leave it on. If it snaps back on, you can also leave that. Glass bottles and jars, those are the tops that you will remove, and you will dispose of those in the trash.
Great.
Glass bottles and jars, you said? Remove?
Yep, glass bottles and jars, you will remove the top and place the top in the trash. The bottle and the jar can go in the recycling.
And the reason for that is because with the plastic, it's all one material, whereas with the glass, it's 2 different materials, and a separate bottle cap is too small to be recycled.
Exactly. Yep. So those are our guidelines for that. And then as far as what you should not put in your recycling bin, biggest thing that we see all the time is plastic bags, but it seems like we are pushing people to not even bring plastic bags to the event at all. Any food and liquids, paper towel and napkins, any tanglers, and then those carry-out food containers. That also includes the black carry-out food containers that seem a little more durable. They are not accepted. And any clamshell packaging or anything like that, we don't accept those either.
I'm just checking to see if there's a question in the comment. I'm sorry, Kalia, go ahead. Oh, is that?
That pretty much is it for my spiel of everything. Another thing that we do kind of see sometimes is waxed cups or like bowls, like the to-go bowls. Those are not accepted either. So if you have anything that has like any type of wax on it, those should go in the trash as well.
So just to review, peanut butter containers are okay, assuming they're reasonably clean. The takeout containers are a hard no, and the quart containers are a yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. And then what about clean aluminum foil and aluminum pans? Are those a yes or a no?
No, so those are a no. So we are not taking any aluminum foil or aluminum pans, even if they are clean. We will be updating the guide and providing that to everyone. We're going to have that updated guide by Saturday, so that everyone's going to be able to have that. Reasonably clean means that there shouldn't be any type of food debris left over. There shouldn't be anything in the actual container that if it is squished or it can somehow come out and contaminate other materials such as paper or cardboard. If it's that much that's left in it, then it's probably just best to throw it away. But if you're able to clean it enough to where it's not going to contaminate those other items, then you're good to go and put them in the recycling.
Yeah, and we're actually right. We've been trying to figure out how to sort of square the circle of how we can clean, if there's a way to clean the containers on site while having people sort their own trash, like whether we can have a dunk bin or, and the answer is probably not. So we're going to have to, there's going to be a lot of judgment calls about what is clean enough on site. But however, Kalia will actually, and her colleagues from DPW will actually be at the festival. DPW is going to have a table there. And so if you have questions for them, we will provide, you can either go to their table or we can get you a contact number. So if you do find yourself with questions, even if you want to keep a bag of, these are items we're confused about, and bring them all over to get a verdict, that will be an option. So we don't have to figure this out all on ourselves. We will have support from the very best possible experts on the subject for Baltimore collection. So thank you so much, Kalia. Does anyone else have any other questions about our recycle collection before we move ahead?
I do. Hi, Kalia. Good to see you
Hi,
again.
Peggy. How are you?
Good to see you. So the dryness, I know I've been trying to dry things at home, but if we're going to try to wash things there, I don't see how they could be dry. So
Yeah,
are we a little loose on that, or?
so we'll be a little loose on the dry aspect of it, since it'll just kind of be. I don't imagine how wet these items will be if we don't really have like a station where you'll be able to kind of clean them out. So I think it'll be okay as long as there's not a large remnant of water left over. It'll be fine.
All right, thank you.
And we are going to be, out in the sun, so there'll be a lot of things will be drying a lot on their own. So by the end of the day, it'll be. I mean, once bags are tied, there's not going to be too much drying going on. But and this is an important point actually. For the other bins, we're going to put liners in the bin, so it'll be easy to just close up close the bag and pull it after. For the recycling, we are actually not putting liners in the bins, and that is for educational reasons. That is because we want to make sure that people understand. Basically, we're trying to do to a degree. I mean, it's not perfect because at home people may not have a compost bin and a plastic plastic films bin, but we want to do as much for the city collected items. We want to do as much as possible a simulation of what you should do at home, and so if we put a liner in that bin, we could confuse people into thinking it's okay to recycle plastic bags in this recycling, and we want to let them know that no, it's not. Any plastic bags should be being taken to your supermarket or another local retailer where that does plastic films collection, but not in your city recycling. So we will not be. After we collect the plastics, we'll be throwing them in a bag to transport to the dumpster and then emptying them out again because they can't go in the truck. But when we collect the plastics, we will be doing it without a liner in the bag, and hopefully that'll allow things to dry out pretty quickly. So answer that question. Okay, any more questions about recycling before we move on to our next category? Okay, great. Well, then we'll move on to our other recycling category, which I just was talking about, which is recycling of plastic bags and films. And thank you so much, Kalia. We will look forward to seeing you at the festival. And Kelly Driscoll from the Trex company is going to tell us about plastic films recycling, what we're collecting, why we're collecting them, and how this is the environment, and what we cannot put in those bins. So thank you so much, Kelly.
Thank you, Adam. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for having me this afternoon. So I'm Kelly. I work with the Trex company. We make composite deck boards. So our deck board is 95% recycled material. So those two components of our deck board is polyethylene film, which are these plastic materials, any soft plastic film, and then it's mixed with reclaimed sawdust. So both of those components mix together and create a bond, and it creates the core of our board. So we are, well, just to give you a perspective, in 2022, we upcycled about 430 million pounds of polyethylene in 1 year. So we are growing, so that means we need more plastic film to make our boards. So I'm really excited to, have this container be part of the festival and also educate people that don't realize that there is a home for plastic bags. So when we say plastic bags, we mean, of course, your normal grocery bags, but your other points that you can have: Ziploc bags, cereal liners, case over wrap from toilet paper or water bottles. So really the rule of thumb is actually taking your thumb and stretching it with your thumb, and if it follows, that's majority going to be polyethylene film. We don't want any type of crunchy or anything that rips. Those would that's a different type of film. So we're just looking for, again, those soft plastics.
Okay. And here's examples of some of the things that we will not be collecting in the plastic bag bins at the festival. Anything, Kelly, that we should really be paying particular attention to here, or anything that may be less than obvious?
No, just really, again, like I said, like if it crunches in your hand or if it rips easily, or any type of like mesh material that unfortunately is not polyethylene, so we wouldn't be able to take that. Any type of like gloves or mask, PPE type of material, unfortunately, we will not be able to take anything like that.
Okay,
like
great.
Shiny, we want to stick away from shiny as well. Again, soft plastic, use your thumb and use it as, trying to determine whether or not it's, polyethylene film. And if things get into the bin that aren't perfectly polyethylene, that's okay. Our lines are meant to take some contamination. So we would be able to, it doesn't have to be perfect and it doesn't have to be completely clean. We just like to say, at least shake it out as best as you can. You don't need to wash it or anything like that. We do want to stick away from moisture as well, like the other recyclables do. We do not want moisture, but if that's loose, pretty much if there is, some water in there, it's not going to make or break the material.
There's a question in the chat: are cannabis mylar pouches recyclable? And I guess mylar products in general, that would be a question for.
They are not, no.
Okay. No. Do we have any other questions about what we can and can't take with plastic films, or just about the whole process of turning plastic bags into lumber products in general, which I personally find really exciting. Part of my background is in forest defense activism. So the fact that we can use a recycled material as an alternative to destroying endangered forests is very inspiring to me, and something I'm really proud that our festival is being a part of. So any other questions about plastic films recycling?
So for the plastic films recycling, will there be a separate station? I'm sorry. Will there be an additional station for these items? Because I know that we're going to have a standard recycling trash, and I assume the clear would be for the films, correct?
Yeah, it's a great question. So at the stations, we're going to have a 4-bin system, and the Trex actually has the Trex company has provided us with special labeled corrugated plastic rectangular bins. So they'll be very clearly delineated from the other bins, and with the plastic bags, but also with the signage on the bins, and then with the signs that will be hanging over the bins. And so there won't be any chance of anyone confusing, which is the recycle bin versus which is the plastic film bin. And at each station we'll have the 4 bins lined up against each other with signs over them to just make it very clear that it is a 4-bin system. And we won't just have, we're not going to have sort of random bins around the festival, because we've just found that, I mean, part of the reason we brought all you in is that we found that at festivals, when you have unstaffed bins, you end up with super high contamination rates, and it kind of defeats the purpose. Even if you do a lot of sorting after the fact, which is labor intensive, materials get contaminated with liquids and other things, and you know, a lot of stuff that could have been recycled ends up not being recyclable. So this way we're trying to keep the stream as clean as possible and as uncontaminated as possible. Okay, any other questions about, oh, and I think Peggy had a question, and Karen, does that answer your question?
I actually put mine in the chat just to Kelly. So thanks.
Yeah,
Okay,
thank you for that question. I'm glad you asked that. So your normal home plastics that you have can be taken to your local grocery stores that are partnered with us. So if you go onto our website, which is nexttrex.com, there's a button that says US drop-off locations, and it's categorized by state. So if you just look under your state, you'll be able to see who's partnered with us. And those grocery stores typically have a bin, the same bin that will be at this festival, that will be labeled Nexttrex in their storefront. So, you know, that's when people come with their bags of bags and drop it into the bin.
Thank you. What was that email again?
The website is Nexttrex, so nextrex.com. Here, I'll actually just put this in the chat so you can see.
And we will, at the tables, we're going at the stations, we're going to have a literature table with more information from the organizations running the booths. And Trex has actually provided us with some materials that we'll have available on those tables for people to learn more. We definitely do want to, this is exactly the kind of information that we want to share, that you don't just need to recycle plastic bags at a festival, but that's something you can do at home as well. I think Safeway is one of our local grocery retailers that will collect the materials that we find in Baltimore. I think Giant is one as well.
Yeah, so Safeway, Giant Eagle, Food Lion, Goodwill, Harris Teeter, Martin's, Kohl's, Wegmans.
Yeah, so a bunch of stores.
There's quite a few. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think I was seeing one of the bins in Goodwill was actually how I found out about Trex doing this collection program. So yeah, these are, you know, easy, convenient stores for many of us, and there may not be everywhere, but there are a lot of them somewhere. So we definitely should be recycling our plastic films as much as possible. It's a little less convenient than putting something right out on the curb, but it is something we can do, and it's something we can encourage people to make part of the sustainable living choices that they are committing to and adopting through being part of this festival. Any last questions about plastic films before we move on to compost? Okay. Okay, well, Kelly, thank you so much for joining us. We're really proud to be partnering with Trex, and we hope to send you a bunch of plastic film.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome.
Bye.
Okay. Moving on to compostables. And I will turn over to Keith from Waste Neutral, who is our compost hauler and our compost expert, who is, from the looks of it, speaking to us on the road, probably in the middle of hauling some compost at this very moment. Go ahead.
Yeah, Keith. Can you hear me okay?
Yes, you sound great.
Okay, yeah. No, I'm actually getting one of my kids ready to go to college, so
okay.
You know how that goes. It's takes some time with the car and all that. So, yeah, I guess the first thing I want to do is applaud everybody for all of the actions they're taking in separating these waste streams. You know, as Adam said, in years in the future, it'll be a lot easier for you guys because the vendors will already have their compostables, disposables mandated. But this year, I think they're all going to do great, having been with the vendors. To help you out on game day, I plan on walking all the vendor booths with Adam to grab a selection of the compostable disposables that they have, and then meet with the volunteers so they can better understand which waste streams can go where based on what we find there. Hopefully, you know, they'll all be with the program that we outlined to them and grab some of these compostable disposables. As it relates to organic waste, I always say if it's made by man, we generally don't take it. If it's made by God, we take it. So everybody has a good idea what organic waste is. So, you know, food waste of any kind, we take. Compostable disposables, we do take. I believe with the instructions we gave the vendors, most of the compostable products will be clearly marked as compostable. But if you have any questions, we'll be there to answer them. Will these volunteers be doing the transfer of the waste, Adam, to the dumpsters? Okay.
It'll be a combination, yeah. Some of them will be doing that. Okay,
so Friday we'll get everything set up where the dumpsters are and have a better idea where to point you. You probably have a good idea already, but what we hope is that our dumpsters will be large green ones that will say compost only on it. So as you're taking the compost waste to those dumpsters, everything goes in there. We may or may not have a truck on site to cycle overflows, but we'll figure that out as we go. Anything I didn't cover, Adam?
Yeah, I think that's great. I'm going to go a little bit more through. I'm going to pull up some slides that talk a little bit more about the specifics of what is and isn't compostable. And if you want to add any comments as we do that, that would be great. Okay, so yeah, so and just looking quickly at the slide, you can see here some of the uncoated. We have the uncoated paper products, which are easily compostable, as well as the coated ones, which you really need to look for that BPI symbol on, which is a little curved tree. We're gonna and here's just a quick list of some of the things we can and can't compost. Anything on this slide, Keith, that deserves special attention? Do you think anything that is incorrect here?
I'm reviewing it now.
Okay, great.
It has meat on it, Adam. What's up with that?
Yeah, we will not. I can say one thing you will probably be very surprised to find much or any of at our festival is meat, seafood, bones, dairy, and eggshells. I mean, maybe some people will bring their own from home if they're just there for the music or if they're new to veganism. But none of if any of that is coming from our vendors, please alert us immediately, because that is something we will need to address. And that is something the compliance team is there to deal with. It is a vegan festival. So
yeah, well, the good thing about this slide, I don't see anything that's out of the ordinary. The good thing about this slide is it does denote that we do take all organic items, all food items, and you know, in the early days, you know, it was almost very difficult for people to decide what to separate. You know, do coffee grounds go here, or is it only fruits and vegetables? We actually take it all. So when in doubt, throw it in. Yeah, I see a natural cloth and fibers. We don't necessarily take that in the compost bin. So no shirts or anything like that. They really don't compost. But everything else looks good. Yeah.
And a really important point that I'm noticing on here, and this was new information to me. Waxed paper products are allowed. That I knew that plastic lined was not allowed, but I didn't realize that waxed paper is allowed. So if you do, and you know, in food service, that's something we might see quite a bit of. So those waxed paper products that we can't recycle will go in the can go in the compost. And we actually, one thing that we talked about at the previous training for the our waste station coordinators is this also applies to cardboard. So your clean cardboard can go in the recycling. However, your soiled cardboard, also your waxed cardboard, cannot be recycled but can be composted. So and so sometimes, for example, a box of produce will have a layer of wax on it, and so something like that can actually go in the compost. This right here is the BPI symbol. This is what you want to look for on any of your French fry boats or cups, or you know, any of the plastic and paper materials that we're trying to decide if they can be recycled or composted. Remember that takeout containers are not recyclable at all in Baltimore, but some of them are compostable. So if we see the symbol on them, those can actually go in the compost. Also, one of the nice things about compost is, unlike the recycling, we are not worried if anything is soiled as to whether it goes in the stream. The more soil, the better. So for compost, that's totally fine.
Yeah, and as I mentioned before, we'll go through and see what the vendors are dealing with. But if a lot of these boats, like a French fry boat, that might not have compostable on it, but it's still a paper product that we take. So once we identify what we'll be working with, we'll let you know, because some of them might not be labeled per se. It might be a paper plate. Those brown ones that you see and stuff like that. It might not say anything, but it's probably compostable. But we'll let you know on site, and hopefully it'll go smoothly.
Keith, what time were you thinking to do that? Like 11 or 11:30, or what makes sense to you on that?
This is on Saturday.
Checking on that later, on the on-site on Saturday.
Yeah, I'll your call. Just let me know when to be out there, what the best time is, and then we'll do a walkthrough together.
Okay, great. And just to be clear, no, that doesn't mean everyone needs to be there for that. What we will do is we'll talk to your station coordinators for each of your organizations, and we'll try to make sure that they are there, so that and then they can pass that information on to you. We will also try to see if we can get someone with a cell phone to do a quick video as we're going over that review, stick it up on YouTube, and then have that as something you can reference after the fact. We're not asking everyone who's coming in at times throughout the day to just make an extra stop in the morning. We will pass that information on to you that we collect. If anyone wants to be there for that, you're certainly welcome, but that's not an extra obligation for an extra time that you need to be there. So really quickly, plastics are one of the most confusing things with compost, because some plastics are recyclable, some plastics are compostable, some of them are neither. So with Baltimore City really encourages not, as Kalia was mentioning, not looking for the numbers, the resin numbers on the items. Just look for the shape of the item, and if it's a clean bottle, that's what we want to look for. However, with the compostables, it really does help to look for that BPI symbol. Again, that's the curved tree with the leaf that is underneath the number 7 there. Those symbols aren't necessarily paired, it's just the way it is on this sheet. But yeah, look for that when you're trying to figure out if something is compostable. So Karen has a question, and then Karen, why don't you share your question with us?
Sure. So some of the containers are like those little brown containers that have like little slightly waxy coating on the inside, which, I don't know if they're actually considered compostable. They're not, I don't think they're recyclable. I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, but they're like the little rectangular shaped brown containers that on the outside, they're look like paper, but when you open them up, they have like that kind of slightly waxy.
Are you talking about kind of like the brown paper takeout containers that have like sort of a fold-in top on them?
Yes. Yeah.
The sort of thing you might see at Whole Foods for example. I think that's a sort of very common like that. Okay. Yeah. Keith, can you answer that question?
I'm going to say we'll take them, because a lot of that stuff generally works in our waste stream. We even have Chinese takeout containers that we take a few places. Anything that we've said this at other conference calls, but whatever doesn't actually compost gets screened out in our process. But always try to be good on the front end as possible. But we'll take them for now, and then we'll know more when we're on site and be able to educate you better as soon as we see what's out there.
Thank you, Keith. And Corey says in the chat, it might be helpful to put common examples of what's recyclable, compostable, and plastic films on the table across from the bins. Yeah, that may be a possibility. We're going to have 2 tables at each station, and we'll talk in a little bit about the reason for that. But that second table might be a good spot for something like that. We'll have to kind of play that by ear a little bit, but it's a great suggestion. Peggy, go ahead.
Just a question about that recycle indicator of number 7. Are all 7s compostable, or just if they have the BPI also?
Can I answer that, Adam?
Yes, go ahead, please.
There is a little bit confusion in the market, because there is a number 7 plastic designation, but there's also a number 7 that applies to compostable. Generally, if it is compostable, it'll also say compostable on it, or have the BPI thing on it. But yeah, let's just let's see what we deal with. If for some reason something accidentally gets into our bins, it's not the end of the world. We'll screen it out. But 7 is a very challenging number, because it applies to 2 different types of products.
Thank you.
And Kalia, I just wanted to, since we're back to the recyclables, I just wanted to ask if there's anything that you wanted to add here. And if not, that's fine. I just wanted to open up in case you did.
I don't believe so. I think just remembering that you can leave the tops on for the plastic containers and then take it off for the glass. That's just a common thing that we've been getting. So that's the main one.
Okay. And I'm thinking maybe what we can do is if we want to start, it probably is going to take us a little while to gather the materials, and we want to give people enough time to get back to their stations, but also enough time for the vendors to actually be set up to get the materials from. So maybe if we try to do that check-in for everyone at the area we're calling Less Waste Central at 11:30 on Saturday, that can work. But we can talk about those details a little more offline and send an email. And again, that doesn't mean all of you have to be there at 11:30. It is helpful for the some of the station coordinators will be helpful for them to be there, but for just people who are just individually volunteering throughout the day, you don't have to make an extra trip down for that. We will record that information.
11:30 where?
So at Less Waste Central, which we're going to talk a little bit more about where that is in a moment, we'll be kind of doing the review of the materials for anyone who is on site, and we'll be recording it for anyone who's not.
11:30 what day?
That's Saturday.
Saturday morning?
Yes. And yeah, I will. Yeah, we can send you more. We can send you a reminder about that. And if again, that's not, if you're there, great. If you're not, if you're a station coordinator, please do try to be there. If you're not, and that's not on your shift, we'll make sure that information gets passed along. Okay, yeah. So I want to, Nam, would you be able to tell us a little bit more about BPI, what it is, how to look for the symbol on products, and any confusion that people may have about that? Thank you.
Sure. Yeah. So BPI is a certification that food packaging products can get to be certified to be industrially compostable. So basically corporations that sell food packaging products that they believe are compostable undergo like a process with BPI, the Biodegradable Products Institute, to certify their packaging to actually be able to be composted, and specifically in industrially compostable facilities like waste neutral. So like they're not usually backyard compost materials, but you can take them to an industrial compost because of the higher temperatures they reach and the other environments that are required for those items to be composted. So as part of becoming certified to be BPI compostable, corporations have to work with like laboratories and undergo testing for their products to make sure that they are actually, they will actually compost. And so you can see here, there are two basically versions of the BPI certification mark. And so you might see either of these on a food packaging product, and that will basically signify that it is actually compostable in an industrial compost. Okay. Other things, yeah, so usually like compostable plastics are made of like plant resins, so that's how they're compostable. And sometimes companies have the mark that shouldn't have them. That's a whole other thing. But if you see the mark, like generally it should be it means that it should be industrially compostable. The other thing is that there are older versions of the BPI mark, and usually companies need to basically like recertify their products every year. And then every few years, they have to undergo different versions of testing to make sure that the products are still the same and that they can still be composted in an industrial compost facility. So this is the most updated version of the BPI mark. If you see older versions, it generally means that the company probably hasn't recertified their products in a while, which isn't the best sign. But I think, as Keith was saying, like we should probably just go by what we think, and if it does have a mark, I think in most case scenarios it is BPI compostable. And the other thing about BPI compostable is that they only certify things that are in contact with food. So you won't see like other products like sponges or like, I don't know, different types of bags that aren't necessarily like food related bags have the BPI mark on them. And BPI does this because there are just so many limited facilities of industrial compost available in North America and in the US generally. It's hard to find an industrial compost. And so they want to make sure that people are composting things that are food related because those are the most common things that are composted.
Great.
So if you see something that says BPI on it, does it goes in the regular bin with everything else?
That'll go in the compost bin.
The compost bin, yep. So BPI is, as I said, industrial compost, and Waste Neutral is an industrial compost facility. So, yep.
Oh,
great. And here,
compost company that will pick up your compost is an industrial compost facility. It's only like if you're doing backyard compost, like in your own backyard, or maybe if it's a community garden where you don't probably want to put the compostable plastics in there that are BPI certified.
Got it. Now, Steph had a question about number 7 plastics, which are the and compostability, and this slide kind of addresses that a little bit. Is that something that you can speak to?
Yeah, so I think as Kalia was saying, these numbers are resin numbers. They don't actually tell you that it's recyclable just because of the arrows. It's just like the producer like puts that number because it's the resin number. And the resin number 7 is made from plants, as we see here in this slide. So it would be compostable, but I would suggest not looking for that and looking for the BPI mark instead, just to. I guess I can add one other thing.
Yeah, please.
One thing I just thought of. So if you go on the BPI website, you can also look up products. You can look up
Thank you. That's a really good point.
number, but on the BPI certification mark, there's a number. There's a certification number that each company has like a unique number. And so you can look up that number. You can look up a company, a brand, and it'll tell you whether it's BPI certified or not.
Yeah, we're going to provide all of our vendors, and we'll do this for the stations as well, kind of a cheat sheet that has a list of what are like a very simplified list of what the different products are in the different categories. And on that sheet, there's going to be a QR code which links to the tool that Num is talking about. So we'll link to that. So these are a list of items that are just straight up in the garbage, and we can probably print out some of these slides just to have as a helpful resource and just tape them onto that table that I mentioned where people can where you can people can leave stuff. We can have a few extra signs with extra information, or actually we may just, well, anyway, there will be signs with more information on site for stuff like this. I did have one question about this list, Keith. I've seen some things say that some compostable systems will take wax paper, and others won't. Do you take wax paper?
Yeah, or wax paper, and a lot of our commercial accounts give us their wax cardboard because the cardboard recyclers don't like the waxy stuff, that a lot of produce is served in. So we take that as well. And that's one thing, like, I guess when we're out there, whatever, probably take a look around. I'll talk to some of the vendors or whatever, but they have wax cardboard. Ideally, it goes without saying, I think probably towards the end of the event or during the event, the cardboard should be broken down. It makes it easier for everybody. But if there's wax cardboard and you want to separate that out, we'll take it because we're okay with that. We're actually okay with regular cardboard too. But if you have dumpsters out there, we'll figure it out.
So we can do so basically clean cardboard can go in the recycling and soiled cardboard can go in the compost. And Kalia, will the city take waxed cardboard, or does the city not take waxed cardboard for recycling?
No wax cardboard.
Okay, so unwaxed and clean cardboard would go in recycling. Soiled and waxed cardboard would go in the compost. That's really good to know about the wax paper. I'll take that off this list here then. Okay, great. Well, then why don't we move on to talking about how we're actually doing the work and what the different teams are at the festival, and a little bit more about some of those kind of questions. So I'm just going to go back to the slide. It's always Okay, so at the festival, we're going to have 4 volunteer teams and that serve distinct roles. And just gonna. So your first team is your Less Waste stations. If you signed up with an organization like Sierra Club or IPC or Gunpowder Riverkeeper, your organization will be running a branded waste station, a station with the organization's name and material and information, where we'll have the opportunity to help people sort their waste, and then talk about how this connects to broader environmental issues, including some of the issues that your organization is addressing. And we'll come back to that in just a moment. The second team is Less Waste Central. This is our node for the whole operation. This is where we're keeping all of our materials, like extra trash bags and bins. This is also where the trash that's collected from our vendors is getting hauled for quality control, since we expect there'll be some contamination there. May also be sort of our midpoint between transporting trash between the stations and the dumpsters. And this is also the place where, when you first come into the festival, as Lori Kim was talking about, you'll be set. It should say central instead of center, but you'll be sent to Less Waste Central, and from there you will be sent to your location. Also, they'll probably give you. It's a good idea to hang on to my number, which all of you, which I'll post again in the chat. So if for any chance, someone at Less Waste Central is running around and not there at that moment, you'll have someone who can direct you to your station. Some of you who signed up as an individual and did not said that you're happy to help with anything might go to Less Waste Central, or to one of our the other remaining 2 teams, which are our litter patrol and our collection team. So the litter patrol's job is, I don't know why I'm not advancing the slides. So this is an example of one of the Less Waste stations. You'll notice on the sign it says trash station instead of Less Waste station. The reason for that is, while Less Waste station is really sort of the name for messaging purposes, with the point we want to communicate, we want people to just, they're looking for a place to throw away their trash, and they're already frustrated there's just not a trash can there. We want to make it as easy as possible to find this is where the trash goes. And then once they get there, we'll do a little more of the message delivery. So this is our litter patrol. Litter patrol will be going around the festival, collecting litter with, and different litter patrol people will have a different bag, a different color bag, and be collecting a different stream. That way we can be doing sorting in real time as we're collecting the litter. It means you don't have to be carrying multiple bags and switching between them. So you might be the litter patrol person for recycling, might be for compost, might be for trash, and might be for plastic films. And yeah, that does mean you'll be walking by some stuff and not collecting it, but that's someone else it'll be their job to collect that material. And that way we don't have to do a lot of sorting after the fact, and you don't have to do a lot of switching between bags as you're going around if you're on litter patrol. If you're someone who enjoys, likes to walk around more than being in a stationary location, if putting on some headphones or just listening to the music that's playing at the festival and just walking around sounds like more of a fun time than talking to a lot of people, this may be the job for you. Our collection team has 2 roles. One of them is going around to the vendors and collecting the trash from the vendors. The vendors will have 4 bags with the different that they'll be sorting, and so you will have your own bags, and they'll dump their trash into your bag and in each of the 4 categories. And so you will, and I think unlike with litter, we're going to have the people doing that carry all 4 bags at once and just go vendor to vendor and kind of do that throughout the day. And then that trash will get taken to Less Waste Central. They will do a check to make sure everything's in the right place, and ultimately that will all go out to the dumpsters. And that is what the other function of this team. This team also periodically, when we build up a bunch of trash bags at the waste stations and at Less Waste Central, they are the team with the golf cart that will be taking those materials and bringing them out to the area where the trash is being stored to be collected. We're going to have a dumpster for recyclables and a dumpster for dumpsters for compostables, and then the plain black trash bags. Those will be stored. Those will be kept just loose on the ground in a pile, And the plastic films, we're going to keep those at Less Waste Central until the end of the festival. And then we'll just take a van and bring those over to Giant or Safeway. And so the collection team gets the materials from the vendors and then gets the materials from the stations and takes them out to their final destination before pickup. Okay, and so yeah, slides are mangle the order by not flipping the slides in advance, but this is what's Less Waste Central, and the point that it makes is it's going to be in a kind of a secluded location, but superficially it's going to look a lot like one of the other waste stations, but with less so for sort of direct public interaction and more for sort of checking on the materials and resorting and keeping the extra materials that we need throughout the day, etc. And if anyone from hearing about all that has a preference as to which team you'd like to be on, some of you gave some answers to that in the initial form, but you can, if you have a thought right now and you want to just put that in the chat, I will make a note of that and make sure you're assigned to that team. Or if you want to think about it and email me after the fact, you can email lesswaste@vegansoulfest.com. And we will try as much as possible to get people on the team that they are interested in being on. Okay, just going to skip through some of these slides that we already saw. Oops, and one other thing that we are doing, and you heard a little bit about this from Steph in the opening video, is encouraging our attendees to be part of our BYO Bring Your Own initiative. So I'm just gonna, is the sound working? But before we go ahead, I just want to make sure, are people getting sound?
It sounds working.
Okay, great. So we'll just start this. Pull that back. Okay. Note about this later. Okay, so BYO is an important part of the festival, an important part of what we're doing. And the reason that this is important to us is that this is a message that we can help deliver. When people bring us the trash, we may get a little questions about this. When we're telling the story of recycling and composting, we can mention some of the points that Steph talked about in the video earlier about how really the most efficient and environmentally friendly option is reuse. And since it's a 2-day festival, through those conversations, some people who were using the disposables on the first day may bring reusables on the second day. Now, one important point, and this is something that's come up a lot in questions, in that video it mentions to bring a cloth bag. There's a really critical detail there. It cannot be a solid cloth bag. So for example, a mesh bag is fine. A clear plastic bag is fine. For security reasons, the festival is not accepting people coming in with opaque bags.
I have an update on this later. This is
a lot of people are saying, well, how do I carry my disposables if I'm not allowed to have a bag? And the answer is, it can be a clear bag or a mesh bag, just so long as it's not a solid color bag that can't be seen for security reasons. And so, yeah, so that is an important part of our storytelling. And storytelling overall, especially if you're at one of the waste stations, is a big part of the job. We are there not just to, tell people what trash goes in what bin, but also to communicate an environmental message and give people a positive experience about sustainability. Just a note about that. Not everyone is going to be into the idea of, having to, some people just want the convenience of being able to throw things in one bin and being told, you actually have to put things in different containers. Some people are just going to get annoyed by that. And that's just a reality. And for and we don't want to argue the point with people. A lot of us are very passionate about sustainability, but we don't win. Nothing is gained by having a debate on these things. If people are not interested, we'll have, as I mentioned, there'll be an extra table, and you can say we'll have gloves for everyone. So you can just say, well, if you hand that to me, I'll sort it for you, or just put it on the table and I'll take care of it. And yeah, we don't want to have interactions that are involve conflict. In fact, at one point during the festival, things are going normally throughout the day. We're guiding people through the sort. At a certain point, that may get a little too busy. Things may get a little too busy, and so we're going to set up a table in front of the bins with signs on them that say "Just leave waste to be sorted," and then we'll throw on our gloves and do the sorting for people just to catch up, and then refer them over to the literature table where they can get more information. So yeah, part of the goal here is to make, it's a little more inconvenient than throwing everything in one bin, but we want to make the whole experience as painless for people as possible. So that's really critical.
So I'll go ahead. If somebody brings a container, and then like they go to one vendor, and then they go to another vendor, the container is going to be dirty, right? So then the other vendor won't take it. So is there a way to wash out that?
Yeah, we will have hand wash stations, so that's an option. We will have, people can unfortunately get paper napkins, and which is another disposable material, but they will be compostable. In general, we would suggest to people just bring if you're expecting to get a bunch of stuff, it may be good to bring a lightweight material. As much as we would as glass is a great material, this might be a case where bringing something lightweight, like a piece of like Tupperware, might be the better option if that's something you're concerned about. That is a question we've gotten, Moshe, so that's a good question. How strict the vendors are going to be about how clean something they're serving in is we don't know. It's the first year we're starting this initiative, so the point about clean containers is pushed from an abundance of caution, but reasonably, if people are expecting that there might be some contact between their serving spoons and whatever else, that's something that we think that may be a concern for vendors. Something that we may need to look into in future years is having a wash station for some of those materials, because it's a great question. It's something that a lot of people have asked. So probably not going to be able to get that done in time for this year, but definitely something that we can look into in the future to make BYO more feasible. Peggy, go ahead.
Are the reusable green, are these like clear enough or not?
Yeah, that's fine. As long as people can see through it and see what's in it, just as long as, basically it's to make sure that people aren't bringing any prohibited items. So that should be absolutely fine. No problem. And a lot of the addition, and this is probably all feels like an overwhelming amount of information. So something we've done, we've prepared a web page that has a list of links to where you can find out what is and isn't recyclable, what is and isn't compostable, the information about the films, and so on. So we'll have this QR code available at the stations. We'll make a sign that people can scan it. We also, if you want to just write down this URL and scan it right now, something you can keep on your phone if you need to look something up as to what goes where, or you can just scan it on site at the station, and that will make things a little bit easier, and so you don't have to try to memorize all this voluminous amount of information. That is pretty much all the main information, but I'm happy to take any questions. And again, that was tinyurl.com/VSF guide. I'll put that in the chat. And I'm realizing, if I put anything else in the chat, it was only going to waiting room participants. So I think, okay, no, I don't think I have, so that's fine. If anyone has trouble with that link, let me know and we'll get into it, but I think it should be fine. Okay, any other questions? Okay, then thank you all. It's been a long training, and so I appreciate your patience. But I will, if you have any more questions after the training, you can contact me at lesswaste@vegansoulfest.com. I'll also give you my phone number. Feel free to call. I'll put that in the chat. I'll say it right now. It's 201-470-3112. Feel free to call anytime if you have any questions. And I'll put this link in the chat, lesswaste@vegansoulfest.com. And if you have to change your hours or have a question about something or something was said that was confusing, we want to answer all your questions. And other than that, we're really grateful for all of you joining us and helping to make Vegan SoulFest as sustainable a festival as possible and to drive home the message about environmental justice. The festival is sitting directly across the Patapsco River from the Bresco incinerator, the city's largest polluter. It's a testament to environmental racism and an incinerator that is damaging the health of low-income Black communities. And so talking about how we need to move towards a zero-waste economy and a zero-waste society and deal with our trash more sustainably and also ideally eliminate as much of our trash as possible is a critical message that we want to drive home. Also, we are sitting right on the river, and we know that the trash in our waterways has had a devastating environmental impact. So we can tell the story about wanting to get trash out of our waterways, about wanting to clean our air by stopping feeding the incinerator and making sure that our food is cycled back into the earth and not being burned. And so long as we are still using disposables and trying to make sure that they will help create new materials rather than pollution. So that is it for the training. Again, please let me know if you have any questions. I can hang around for a few minutes. But thank you all and really look forward to seeing you over the weekend. Really grateful to have you joining us for the festival.
Thank you.
And oh, one last rule. This is a rule, a volunteer rule. If you are at the festival, you must have fun. Everyone volunteering has free admission to the festival for that day. If you are someone who's volunteering for the entire day, if you're a coordinator or you just sign up for a lot of shifts, we insist that you take some time to go around, enjoy some food, listen to some music, see some talks, enjoy the festival. You're here to enjoy and learn at the festival as well. We are grateful for your volunteering, but we want you to have a good time. So thank you, everyone. Really appreciate you joining us, and we'll see you at the festival.
Is there a meeting?
Thank you.
Is there a meeting tonight too or something?
Well, what we'll be doing tonight is we'll be doing a replay. So if anyone, and invite your friends. We need more volunteers. People can still register to volunteer. Yeah, and so we will be doing a replay of the training this evening. We will show everything that you just saw, and then if there's anyone has any additional questions, we'll just make space for live Q&A. But if you were already here, the only thing you'll be missing is any additional live questions. So that's just a replay, and maybe by then we'll have the new. I think DPW is going to be putting out a new recycling poster today. So we will be, if that comes out today, we will share that this evening. But other than that, this is just going to be a repeat of the training that we just went through. Okay, any last questions? Okay, again, feel free to call me or message, call or email me if you have any more questions. I'm going to put my number in the chat.
We will take live questions as soon as the video ends. So for anyone who's still here who has questions, we'll do that.
My own phone number. It's been I haven't been sleeping much these last few days. I'm trying to remember around.
I have a different number for you, I think.
What number do you have for me, Moshe? Let me know my own phone number.
Well, it starts with a 201. Do you have a 201?
201. That's did I put something else?
Oh no, but is that no 201-470-3112?
That is my phone number. Thank you. I couldn't even remember. I just got to the point where I could not remember my own phone number. This festival is taking a toll. Okay. And on that note, I think it's time for me to stop speaking. I can't remember my own phone number. Okay, well, I will be shutting the room in just a second, so feel free to make any last comments in the chat or ask any last questions. And then
what do you
done.
need? How are we doing with the phone calls for the?
Oh yeah, if anyone is inspired today, and someone asked in the chat, does Trex provide corrugated bins? Yes. If anyone has some time today and is inspired to make some calls to let people know about the repeat of the training tonight, We could use some calling help. So Moshe, if that's something you're available for, or anyone else that's available, we will be doing that. Yeah, we'll be doing calling throughout the day. Thank you for those of you who hung around. I know that was a long video and it's probably confusing that we're wrapping up the video and then going into live Q&A, but I'm happy to take questions now. And I'm also read through the questions that came in the chat during the recording. But Spice, you've had your hand up for a very long time. So if you have a question, I am happy to take it.
One of the ones in the chat, and I can't remember if you answered it or not. It was
Well, I'm
not
happy to answer it anyway, so that way people who watch the recording will have the benefit of those answers.
Let's see.
I can while you're looking, I can try to answer some of the questions that came up in the chat. I'll just scroll through.
Oh, where can we unload our materials? If we have to park far away, can we get closer, unload, and then go park?
That's a good question. Yeah, I think if you ask about double parking, that should be no problem. I talked to Lori Kim, who you saw earlier. I sent her a text in the message, and she said that yeah, you should be able to.
And it might be good for a cart, a golf cart, to be hauling us around to our tables with our stuff.
Yeah, we may only have one golf cart. We will have a few dollies though. So if you want something like that to move stuff around, I'll find out if we have more than one golf cart. I think we just have one this year, but we're gonna have a bunch of dollies. So if you want to borrow one of those to move materials, I mean, vendors will be doing a lot of the same stuff. So there'll be volunteers trying to accommodate the vendors, and you'll have the same, access to the same courtesy. And vendors will be pulling up. So if you just say you're a vendor and you need to. The nuance of vendor versus running a waste, no one's gonna care about that. Just say you're a vendor and you need to move in your materials, and people will help you with that, because we're not expecting the vendors to carry everything from the parking lot. So
Spice, I have a dolly.
Oh, good.
Oh, that's also a possibility. BYO dolly.
Yeah, I have one too. We might need two, we might not. Great.
It says, yeah, and what is the name of the park? The park is West Covington Park. And yes, it is, as you were saying in the chat, Spice, it is at the north side of the Hanover Bridge. If we have to park in the back, is there a place where we can unload? Yeah, that was just Bonnie, that was the question we just addressed. Where should I request to have my ride pick me up and drop me off? Yeah, the place you would want to do for that is there's a drop point for Uber and Lyft by the park entrance. So that would be where you'd want to. It'll be clearly marked at that point. So that's where you'd want to be dropped off, is the Uber Lyft park. Do we have to park across the bridge? If you don't get volunteer parking on site, we will keep a bunch of volunteer parking. If that is full, you would need to park across the bridge, but we'll have shuttle buses running the whole time, so you don't need to walk across the bridge. And then let's see what else came up. Can you point to the old city garage? I'm not sure I understand that question. I think there is a building across there that is called City Garage that's across the parking lot. Will security have our names on a list to allow us as volunteers to park in the closed lot? From what I understand, that's not going to be so much an issue. If you just tell them you're volunteers, they'll believe you. So, let's see.
We'll have our backpacks checked as well, right?
Yeah, any non-clear bag will be checked. So we will not have contraband items smuggled into the festival. So should we what's it?
Marijuana is legal, right?
Well, I don't know what the festival rules are in that regard. I don't know that that's come up. It's a fair question.
Well, I think the FAQ said no smoking.
I suppose if people are using it in other forms, I don't know if that's addressed in the. I haven't actually read the FAQ, so you're one up on me. But yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know the answer to that. But yeah, I guess no smoking answers at least part of that question. But let's see. Should we bring chairs? No, we will be providing chairs. And then I'm coming in the early morning. Will they be parking for us close to the park, not across the bridge? If you are there, if you're there in the early morning, I think odds are good that you will be able to get to the volunteer parking. Let's see. Let's see. Here's a comment from Bonnie. Being from an interfaith organization, love the if it's made by God, it's compostable. And Spice added the caveat that God didn't make those paper plates, which is true. But let's see. Oh, and some people are asking about if they get to drive the golf cart, and there may be yeah. And so someone pointed in the chat, the collection team will be driving the golf cart. So if anyone wants to moonlight on that team to be able to drive the golf cart, that we may be able to arrange that. But I know our volunteer Elaine is going to jealously guard the golf cart and insist that anyone wanting to drive it has a driver's license. And my sneaking suspicion is that's just because she wants it all to herself. But but no, I think she's concerned about safety. But let's see. Oh, go ahead, Spice.
If we have 3 people at our table, can one of us like go around the festival or maybe volunteer at another place that you might need people? Like if we have too many people at our trash station.
I mean, I would say 3 would be. I'd say with 3 people, you probably will need them all. If you're finding a lull, and you feel like someone would be better placed somewhere else, give me a call and I can reassign someone. I think most of the time, though, like if you're having, let's say, one person who's sitting at the table to give out literature and get petitions signed or whatever else, and then 2 people helping people sort their waste, you'll probably have plenty of use for 3 people. But yeah, but certainly if someone's waste time is being wasted, there's plenty to do so we can reassign them. Also, as I said in the video, we insist that people enjoy the festival. So do take breaks, do hear a band, buy get yourself some food. We will have food vouchers. Go hear a lecture. Spend some time enjoying the festival, and yeah, don't just spend the whole day stuck behind a table or in front of a garbage can. Let's see. Oh, and yeah, so I was mentioning in the chat in response to the video, the thing about cleaning out your containers. We mentioned the cloth napkins, so that's that's one thing you can do. That's an option. I did want to speak a little bit more to the BYO issue because it's actually been generating some controversy on our social media. A lot of people have been kind of unhappy with the BYO message. People are asking, why are we doing compost? Why are we encouraging reuse? Why don't we just have recyclable materials and just have everything be recyclable? And I think Steph's video addressed that well in terms of the hierarchy of how, with recyclables and compostables, we're still using a lot of virgin materials and consuming a lot of energy. And a lot of materials that are recyclable in theory are not recyclable in practice in Baltimore City. And so we may get questions like that at our stations. What I saw this, and so we want it's really, it'll be our job to really help to sell that message and let people know that as much as we're here collecting compost and recyclables, we recognize that this is a poor substitute for not having these disposables at all. And so, seeing the pushback that we're getting, it really educates us to the fact that this is going to be probably, a years-long learning process. And we're starting that process right here. And show your container, right? I mean, exactly that. So if you have the container on the table, you can show people it's convenient, it's not a hassle, it's lightweight. Because people are like, well, how, I don't want to carry all this stuff around. It doesn't have to be something that weighs 5 pounds. Exactly. And so, yeah, if you have your containers and you want to show people this isn't terrible inconvenience. Some people were asking about, what about the no bag rule and how do I bring containers? Well, there isn't a no bag rule. There was at one point a no opaque bags rule, and even that is now being loosened. So you can have a bag for your container. I can also share, I think before the training is done, I'll share an article that talks about why recycling is not a great alternative to reuse, and reuse really is the best option. But yeah, we could talk about how how a lot of plastics are not collected. Even a lot of plastics that are collected in the last few years have gone straight to the landfill. That's good news, is that is turning around a bit. There is actually more of a market for the plastics now, but even after the Chinese market dropped out,
why the fuck are they making those what are they called? The blueberry boxes.
The plastic yeah, as opposed to just using
oil and gas industry wants us to keep throwing everything away.
Yeah. Bonnie, that's an interesting idea about a BYO discount. That's something I'll bring that up as an idea for next year. Maybe we could do like a
$5.
we'd have to work that out with the vendors, but maybe like, I mean, it's if we can do a 5-cent surcharge for a plastic bag, maybe we could do a 5-cent or something nominal, but at least just recognition. Like, if you use your own container, you get 10 cents off, and whatever the vendor would have cost them for those disposables. We can do, and it may not make the difference. It's not something that probably will influence people's decisions so much as make people feel good that they're being recognized for doing something positive. So yeah, that's a good idea. I will bring that up as a thing for next year. I like that idea.
I'm gonna go because I want to go look at the stars, but our friend Paul Dongara didn't get to see this, but there's a way he can see the video, right?
Yeah, what we're going to do, and that's an excellent segue actually, is I'm going to take this video and tonight probably do a little bit of editing and then put it up on YouTube, and we'll email it out tomorrow so that people can review it. And then of course, that in combination with, if anyone wants to come to the what Keith is going to be doing on Saturday morning with the review, with the live review with the materials. And also, I'm going to try to make sure we can get someone to videotape Keith, phone video record Keith doing that and Keith and Kalia doing that run through with the materials, and then throw that up on YouTube really quickly, so that people can scan that during the day. I wonder if anyone under the age of 30 has the word videotape as a verb.
Thank you. And Mark, I will see you at 10:30. And Bonnie, I hope to meet you.
Yeah, looking forward to meeting you too. The only thing I would say, Adam, this was all excellent. This is really great.
Thank you.
Amazing information. And the only thing that I would say, because I was watching on my phone, it was really hard when she was doing the arrows of where to park and where not to park. That was really hard to see.
Okay.
So I don't know if you're going to email volunteers one more time, if you could do like a screenshot with arrows of volunteer parking or something.
Yeah, I'll see if maybe we can get a PDF or something with
something like that. Yeah. But otherwise, great information.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Yeah, and thank you so much
Saturday.
for sticking around. I know this was not a short training, so we definitely appreciate your patience and engagement.
So I made dinner, folded all my laundry. All right, we'll see you on Saturday. Looking forward to it.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
All right. Take care. Bye.
So long. Mark, any last questions?
Bye, Bonnie. Thank you, Adam, for all this information. I can tell you and your team have really put a lot of thought and effort into this.
Thank you.
I would agree with Bonnie about the parking thing. It's not really very clear to me.
Okay.
So I did have a couple of remaining questions.
Yeah, I could answer them.
So you mentioned gloves, but I can see that some of us are, probably going to be at risk of getting clothes dirty with food waste. And I'm wondering, could plastic aprons be a possibility, even though I know they're not, in any way reusable or compostable? But for people that are going to be likely exposed to, food waste, liquids, people are going to get bumped, arms are going to get bumped. People are not going to be able to stay clean, ultimately.
Yeah. That's a good question. I will say that working at the stations, I have not, like from past years, I haven't found that to really be a problem for people. Where people are a little bit more sort of down and dirty to a degree is at Less Waste Central, where there is more of the processing of the, like sort of there's quality control on stuff that's already in bags. But at and this is something that we stressed. I should have probably stressed a little bit more, but it's something we made clear to the waste station coordinators. Basically, the setup is going to be a little bit like this. So if you're most of the time, you're not, as a volunteer, for most of the day, you're really not even going to be directly interacting with the waste so much as you are telling people what to put where.
Okay.
Towards the evening, if things get kind of get really busy and people, we start seeing lines forming and no one wants to wait online to throw away their garbage. So at
Right.
that point, what we're going to do is we're going to set up a card table, like a 6x3 table, and with the signs on the table that say leave trash to be sorted. And then people will just place their items on the table, and then the volunteers with gloves will deposit the items into the bins, which will be right behind the table. So there's going to be very little sort of like, pulling, putting things out, taking things out of, or interacting with I mean, pulling out the bags certainly, but overall it's fairly low contact with the trash. For the less waste central people, there'll be a little bit more of that. And I've been really only kind of recruiting people like that who are sort of like trash training veterans who I know won't be bothered by that. But yeah, for most of the people, it's a fairly low contact experience. But we will have the gloves. We will have. We're also going to provide a KN95 masks. We're not going to require them, but we'll make those available to volunteers. This is an added safety precaution.
Okay.
And two kinds of gloves. We'll have the disposables and work gloves. So if people want to double up on the gloves, how much or how little people want to use those, we're not, we're going to leave that at individual discretion, but we will make those things available.
All right, very good. So if we are at Less Waste Central, we're going to be under a tent, right?
Yeah, there will be a tent.
Okay.
Their tents are, there may be some of the stuff will be outside of the tent, some of it will be inside, but we're going to have a 10 by 15. All the tents are 10 by 15. We deliberately got extra large tents so that we could stow the garbage bags in the back of the tent before they get picked up, and kind of just contain the trash a little bit. But yeah, so there will be tents at every station. There'll be kind of the easy up canopies at every station, including
Okay.
West Central.
So how much space is each group going to get for their own educational materials?
So each group is going to have a 6 foot. We're going to have two tables at each station. One for the one that I just mentioned to sort of throw in front of the bins if we need to speed up the sorting process, and the other will be a literature table for each organization. So each organization will have a full literature table. We will probably on each table also just put some basic information about recycling in the city and the different composting programs. But the 2/3 of the table will be each organization's own materials.
Okay, and that's a standard 6-foot table?
Yeah.
Okay, great. Let's see.
This is very helpful, Mark. Thank you. I'm glad all these questions are getting into the recording.
And I guess my last question is, well, you sort of already answered it, which is, really the only people that are going to be actively digging in the bins are really going to be at the Less Waste Central tent.
Yeah, we may get to the point where some of the vendors bring their trash to the stations. We've encouraged them to take their trash to Less Waste Central.
Right.
If they, some of them may not be willing to do that, and so they may go to the stations. We are asking them to sort as much as possible. In those cases, there may be a little bit of vendors having to go through. The volunteers go through some vendor bags, but we're trying to minimize that as much as possible. And yeah, and we're sending the golf cart around we're having volunteers pull trash from the vendors throughout the day deliberately so that we don't have a huge amount of vendor trash at the end of the day. And we're also going to send the golf cart around to pull trash from the vendors right around closing time. That way, just basically as much as possible, try to keep the vendor trash away from the stations.
Right.
The vendors they'll be selling pretty much right up to the closing time of the festival, and so there will be that last hour from closing until the garbage pickup is an hour after the festival ends. So that's going to be a lot. There's going to be a lot to do right during that hour, but yeah, we're trying to the things that are more sort of intense than just dealing with the individual attendees and their trash. We're trying as much as possible to take that away from the stations, but we won't be able to do it entirely.
Right. Okay. And I just had one more quick question. So I can share my screen.
Oh yeah, let me give you the privileges to do that. Make co-host. Okay, you should be able to screen share now.
Okay. So hopefully you see the map.
Yes.
So, so I understand that if I understand correctly, this is parking, or
So
this is a
parking.
building, or this is parking.
Yeah. If let's go in a little closer, and I can point out a little better.
I think this is
Okay.
parking. This looks like a building.
Yeah, that is. Let's see, Baltimore Peninsula. Let's yeah, let's go in a little bit more because I think, and then pan a little bit to the left. Yeah, a little bit further down. A little more. Okay, so what you're looking at there is, do you see the white space right there? I think that is that our parking? I think that's our parking, but I'm not, it's a little confusing to me, even just looking at it now. I mean, it'll be pretty on site. It's actually less confusing on site than it is on the map because
Okay.
there's pretty much only one way. There's pretty much just like one path into the park, and the parking lot is right there. So
Okay.
yeah,
And then,
it won't be very confusing at all.
and then the actual booth locations will be here on the grassy area.
Yeah.
Okay.
There may be a few in the parking lot, not a whole lot, but there may be, like, we're going to put, probably one or two by the bathrooms because people
Right.
use a lot of paper by bathrooms. And
Right.
and then the rest will all be within the grassy area. Yeah.
Okay.
I think the white thing that we're looking at there, now that I'm thinking about it, might be the sort of sandy area within the park. It's a little hard to tell. Can we zoom in a little more? Is this this is maps or okay, yeah, let's see. So that
This is
is
Google.
so that's
Well, that's definitely
okay, yeah,
parking
this is way
spaces.
clear. Yeah, this is way clearer. So that's the parking lot. And then what is the white? Is that the sandy area? What is that? It's very confusing. Um I don't know what I'm looking at.
It looks, if I had to guess,
Mhm.
oh, there's actually
There is
this,
a tent.
this looks like some kind of sports court. There's like a
The only
volleyball.
thing really in the park are some volleyball courts that they break down.
That's what this looks like right here, volleyball courts.
Oh, really? Huh.
Yeah, I'm a volleyball player, and that's
Oh, okay. So I
that's
guess
what,
we're looking at the sand then.
yeah, that's what I would guess.
Okay.
But this I don't know what that looks like. This just looks like a paved area that just.
I wonder if these pictures are outdated. This may be is this is I wonder what does this do the thing where it lets you choose like the slider of how new or old an image it is? I don't know if this is maybe that's because we're doing the overhead view and it doesn't do that for that. Maybe that's if you're doing street view that it does that.
Yeah, it doesn't really have a.
Can we do street view? See if that works here.
Yeah. So there's street view.
I think if you pull a little person down, yeah, on the right side, you pull the person and you put it where you want them to be. Kind of click on it, yep, and drag them exactly like that. Okay, there we go.
That looks like paved area.
Okay, so we can walk around now and explore the park. We should have done this before. I think a lot of this is there, yeah, so the park has changed a little bit since this was done, it looks like. So you see in the back, that's the parking lot. I think there are more trees now than there were when this was made. And so this is the path in the park right now. The vendor booths will be to the left of this path we're looking at here, and then some of them will be so they'll be right flush up against the path on that side, and then they'll be more sort of recessed back on the other path. So the vendor booths will be kind of just along so the path circles around the park, and the vendor booths will be along that path.
Oh, I
And
see.
the way stations will be actually not so much as much there and more sort of centered in the median grassy areas, so for maximum visibility.
Okay.
And since there's a lot more vendor booths than way stations, so we want to place them where everyone can see them.
Right. All right. Well, thank you very much, Adam.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was just gonna say you answered all my questions, and
great.
so I'll leave you to your next volunteer here.
Okay. Well, thank you. That was a great little added bit to the presentation that answered some questions that that a lot of people had.
All right. I'll see you on Saturday.
Okay, great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay. And any other questions? I think you just joined us, right? Yeah, happy to answer anything that you were curious about, and also we will have it for anything that you missed. We'll be putting up a replay tonight. That'll probably be out by tomorrow morning. I'm going to close the room though if there aren't any questions. But yeah, please, if you have any questions, please let me know. Okay, great. Well, thank you so much. Have a great evening.